Hi, this is Tutor Nick B, and this is lesson 246. Today, the lesson is the difference between leftovers and scraps. Yeah, sometimes students will ask, what's the difference between these two? All right, let's take a look at the note here. Scraps or table scraps are usually small amounts of food that are usually too small to save for later. Scraps are typically half-eaten or mostly eaten amounts of food from someone's personal plate. So usually when you say scraps, somebody had it on their plate already and they were eating, and maybe, not everybody finishes everything. They leave little pieces of food on the plate. This is what we typically refer to as scraps. All right, let's go on. Leftovers are amounts of food remaining after a meal, especially food that has not been on someone's personal plate, and are usually well worth saving and wrapped up or put in Tupperware to be eaten at a later time. Of course, there could be some exceptions. Maybe somebody put out a lot of food on a plate for someone and then they suddenly didn't feel well, they felt kind of sick, and they hardly touched anything, and they had a real lot of food on that plate. We might still consider that to be kind of like leftovers and wrapped up too. But generally, we think of scraps as smaller amounts, amounts that somebody was actually eating and putting in their mouth with their fork, and stuff that's actually left on the plate is usually what we refer to as scraps. So it's usually smaller amounts. Leftovers, there could be a lot of leftovers. All right, let's continue. Let's look at some examples. Some examples kind of clarify it a little bit more. Let's look at number one. Give the scraps to the dog. Yeah, I've seen this even in the movies, and I've had dogs in my family throughout our life. Sometimes, the dog's bowl, a lot of dogs are willing to eat the scraps. You just push it right off the plate into their bowl, and, if it's the right or proper sort of food, they will eat it. So that's typical. We never say give the leftovers to the dog. We usually say give the scraps to the dog. Or number two, clean the scraps off the plates before putting them in the dishwasher. So if you've owned a dishwasher before, if there's still like little amounts of food on the plate, you have to wipe them off. That'll make the dishwasher a total mess if you don't clean those off. So usually, again, those are just, you take a fork or a knife and you just, again, push them off the plate, usually directly into the garbage bin. Because they're usually not worth saving. Like I said, it's probably like half-eaten stuff that's been in somebody's mouth or near someone's mouth before. So that's usually what we mean by scraps. Okay, let's look at the third example. I wrapped up the leftovers and put them in the refrigerator. You can have them tomorrow for lunch. Yeah, again, especially if you had like food in the center of the table. Maybe people picked from it, to put on their plate, but they didn't usually eat directly from that bowl. Or, like I said, if it was actually on someone's plate, if you know that they left a lot of leftovers, or they left a lot of food on the plate, we still might call that leftovers. So it's usually scraps when it's become small amounts. All right, let's look at number four. Usually after a large Thanksgiving meal, there are plenty of leftovers that can be eaten for several days. Yeah, especially Thanksgiving Day meal or a Christmas Day meal. Usually, most families overcook, and they not only do they have a turkey, but they have a lot of other variety of different types of food in bowls that you could choose from, and there's always a lot usually left over that and everybody's still full, and there's still plenty left over. Usually they could be wrapped up and, they might be eaten the rest of the week. There's usually so much food. That's your typical example of leftovers. Okay. Anyway, I hope you got it. I hope this has clarified the difference between how we use the difference between these two more. Anyway, thank you for your time. Bye-bye.